Manchester United. Ruben Amorim eyes new transfer target amid Elliot Anderson worry, and we shall talk about that could also be said of Gomes, who has 10 caps for his country, but he was omitted from Carlo Ancelotti's most recent squad for this international break. United's fringe players should be given a chance to prove their worth when Amorim loses some key names to the Africa Cup of Nations, like Bryan Mbeumo, Amad Diallo and Nasser Mazraoui. The Scots spent over a decade in Manchester, where he made a staggering 471 appearances and netted 127 goals. Manchester United could turn their attentions to Wolves' João Gomes should they not be able to land Elliot Anderson. Ruben Amorim's side are reportedly in the market for a new midfielder, with the Portuguese keen to reinforce his engine room. Academy graduate Kobbie Mainoo is out of favour with the head coach, while Manuel Ugarte's minutes have also been limited, with Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes often the first choice pairing in Amorim's 3-4-2-1. Now, the Daily Mail claim that United want to sign Gomes from the Premier League's bottom side Wolves, who is also attracting interest from other Premier League outfits, so the report details that Liverpool, Chelsea and Manchester City are all in the running for the Brazilian signature. United have previously been linked with Nottingham Forest's Elliot Anderson, who has cemented himself as a regular first-teamer in the England setup under Thomas Tuchel. The Red Devils spent big in the summer and are reportedly wanting to sign a midfielder ahead of next year's World Cup in order to get a good and non-inflated fee. With Anderson almost a shoo-in for the tournament in Canada, Mexico, and the United States in 2026, it could give the Forest man the platform to perform and thus give United's Premier League rivals a reason to raise their asking price. That could also be said of Gomes, who has 10 caps for his country, but he was omitted from Carlo Ancelotti's most recent squad for this international break. United's fringe players should be given a chance to prove their worth when Amorim loses some key names to the Africa Cup of Nations, like Bryan Mbeumo, Amad Diallo and Nasser Mazraoui. McClare also enjoyed plenty of silverware during his stint with the Red Devils, including 4 Premier League titles, 2 FA Cups, the League Cup, a European Cup Winners' Cup and the European Super Cup. Although McClare evidently excelled on the pitch, it was his work off it that left a lasting impression on Ferguson. Why Fergie loved McClare. I bought Brian McClare in my first summer here, and he was a fantastic signing, absolutely marvellous, Ferguson said. We've had great signings, Peter, Schmeichel, Steve, Bruce, Eric, Cantona, but Brian's been every bit as good. He's loyal, marvellous in the dressing room, a considerate person, and does a lot of work for the players that may not register with many people, but it does with me and everybody at the club. Ferguson also hailed McClare's versatility, claiming he could play anywhere up top or in the midfield, and no matter where he ended up, he just got on with the job. Brian had fantastic energy, brave, 2 good feet and a terrific work rate, Ferguson added. He was an underrated, fantastic footballer. McClare departed Old Trafford as a player in 1998 but returned as a coach in 2001, where he took over the reserves and later became the director of United's youth academy. Of the hundreds of kids who came through United's academy during McClare's time in charge, one of those was his son, Liam McClare's injury hell at Carrington. Throughout his time in the academy, Liam McClare called the likes of Matty James and Federico Machida his teammates. Although James and Machida went on to enjoy careers as professionals, McClare became bitterly unlucky with injuries. Speaking to Planet Football, McClare revealed the brutal extent of his unfortunate bill of health. I ripped a quad muscle just as I signed for them, so I was out for about 8 months with the rehab at Carrington. Then I came back for a month or 2, went to the Milk Cup, where we finished runners-up to Sao Paulo, I think, in 2007, McClare said. Then I had keyhole surgery on my ankle, which was down to a previous injury, so I was out for another 8 months. So I wasn't really in the team that much. I only ended up playing a handful of matches. McClare added, I didn't really establish myself enough, and by the time I came back from my second injury, I was training with players a few years below, the likes of Jesse Lingard and Ravel Morrison. Although McClare conceded he could have moved elsewhere to pursue a career in football, he decided he'd go to university, where he studied sport in Liverpool, but in his final year, McClare chose to go down a path that represented a major departure from what he'd known all his life, music. How McClare carved out a new career. He performed at gigs while some of his tunes received airtime on BBC Introducing. But perhaps the greatest honor early in his music career was when his song, How? Got played at Old Trafford at half-time of United's clash against Southampton in October 2013. Speaking to the Macclesfield Express shortly after, McClare could barely hide his delight. "It is unbelievably really," McClare said. "I am still pinching myself about it." Several of McClare's songs have since been blared out over the speakers at Old Trafford, although his primary forms of income from music come via gigs, weddings, and other functions. It's not how they may have envisaged it, but the McClares can now say they have both played at Old Trafford.